So swears are okay?
Yeah, great.
And there's no swear jar? I mean, with the circumstances of From, that always deserves a couple of F-bombs anyways, right? As the
Yeah,
seasons, right? Like,
maybe too many F bombs. Yeah,
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 like you're not getting through that experience without a couple of them dropping.
yeah, exactly.
Yo, welcome to My Summer Lair. I'm your host, Sammy. I truly believe if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going, Younan. All right, so I'm 3 seasons into From on MGM Plus, and I'm still struggling like a turtle on its back, struggling to convey what the show is all about. You know how Seinfeld is a show about nothing? From is a show about everything. Imagine going on a road trip, maybe with your family, or perhaps you're on a Greyhound bus with strangers, and this road you're on is strange. You might be lost. Only now you come to a tree in the road, and the way forward is just, it's no longer possible. Trying to get back to the highway proves practically impossible because you're stuck in this circular loop that brings you to this bizarre town, like a drain. It just drains you right down to this bizarre town. Everyone on From is trapped in that weird town. They were all stopped, perhaps even selected by that tree in that road. And now there's no way home, and now there's no way out. Worse, a nightmare rudely intrudes on reality when horrific creatures emerge from the surrounding forest. Of course, as always, delightfully when the sun goes down. From is Lost meets The Walking Dead, only set in an escape room. I guess that's how I'm going to go with. Searching for a way out for these characters means I'm puzzling secrets hidden within the town and even beyond. The horror series centers around Boyd Stevens, who is played by Harold Perrineau, the self-appointed sheriff and de facto mayor. He's trying to oppose order over terrifying chaos. Kenny Liu is Boyd's deputy and right-hand man who lives with his aging parents and is asleep with one eye open in town. Kenny is played by Ricky He, this guest for this episode. Ricky takes me through Kenny's heartbreaking journey over the 3 seasons he's been trapped in that nightmarish town. I point out to Ricky he's fortunate in that he's trapped in that town with his parents, but also with his culture. That's a rare experience considering what everyone else has to endure. And yet, even though Kenny started off as Boyd's deputy, their relationship is evolving. So much so, Ricky drops a fantastic comic book analogy that neatly sums it all up. Man, I wish we did this interview in person so I could give the brother a high five. That was a really cool analogy. On January 10, 2022, Stephen King tweeted, "I just saw the first episode of From. I was absolutely riveted. True edge of your seat stuff, believable and scary as hell." A little bit later, King would then put up another From tweet and he said, "I'm 3 episodes in, wonderful concept, beautifully handled. Is it possible?" This is Stephen King writing now. "Is it possible these people are dead and don't know it?" Yo! So Ricky and I talk about Stephen King and the theories. He has a great insight. When I was asking him about the cast and all excited to read the scripts and see where the mystery is going, because they get to see it ahead, of course, right? His great insight was not that we've given up on the mystery as a cast, but we're kind of so zen now. We're like, it'll reveal itself when the time comes. Yo, patience. And before I reveal Stephanie, know there are season 3 spoilers ahead. Although with a creepy cool TV show like From, spoilers don't mean a whole lot. Like, I'm not sure any of that makes sense. Still expect spoilers. In America, you can see From on MGM Plus, and in Canada, season 3 of From is on Paramount Plus. Be sure to set the VCR. Stephanie, take it from, get it? From? Stephanie, take it from here.
Sound, the final frontier. My Summer Lair is an enterprise, a pop culture voyage with a continuing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new creators and celebrate established producers, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. And now here is your host, Sammy Younan.
Before we unpack From season 3, though, I do want to back up a little bit. Boyd, he's played by Harold Perrineau. He recently announced a bourbon company. Has he given you a bottle of Sable yet?
Yeah, well, he's waiting to. I didn't get to go down to LA because of some family stuff, and so he said he's got a bottle waiting for me. But we had a little taste of the when he first got a sample back in I guess it would have been February when we were still in shooting, and so yeah, I had a little taste.
Okay. Yeah, the bourbon should help make the experience of From a little bit easier, right? As you're kind of
Yeah,
dealing.
yeah, a little, yeah,
I know
yeah.
season 3 is still fresh, but I want to go back to season 1 for you. So you, as an actor, you get cast as Kenny on this like creepy TV show, and there's creatures that come out at night, and you can't leave this town. How are you describing season 1 when you would do interviews or you would talk to people? I'm like, yeah, I got cast on this show, and it's about like, how are you describing it?
Well, at the time, it was kind of like this. It really was crazy. The whole thing with From is it's kind of gone through so many different changes in between. Like, I think when I first signed on, it was an epic show, and then internationally, I think at the time it was supposed to be distributed on Netflix globally, and then it changed after all the legal stuff of being bought by by Amazon and the rebrand and this and that. But the short version was, I was just telling my friends that I was like, yeah, I'm like on this crazy show. It might be on Netflix, and it's about like these people going to town and they can't get out, and at nighttime monsters come out to eat you. And I play deputy. And they're like, what? Yeah. And so, yeah, it's been a crazy trip. Yeah.
Do you have a better handle now on describing the show? Because even now I still struggle, right? Because when season 3 was coming out, I was sharing the trailer with people and they're like, what's happening? I don't understand. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think now it's basically that it's like the simplest version of it is basically, yeah, we don't know why, but people drive into a town and they can't get out. And at nighttime, horrible things happen.
That's a good way to put it. I want to stick with the horrible things because especially when season 1 started, but less so as we've gotten to season 3, there was kind of like a Stephen King small town vibe, all right, to the Fromville or wherever this little town is. And I just want to know, are you a Stephen King reader or even a horror fan?
I didn't grow up, like, I never really loved horror growing up. Like, I watch it when like a film or a show interests me. But with the Stephen King of it all, like, I've read a couple of things here and there, but mostly like synopsises and like spark notes for school, to be honest, because I'm not a good reader. But since we got like the Stephen King nod of approval, like, he's a fan of the show, he's tweeted about it, and I've since read The Long Walk, which I really enjoy.
Oh, nice call. That's a good one. Yeah. So the show was shot in Halifax and kind of surrounding areas. There's lots of nature, lots of trees. This is the forest where the creatures come out. Like, as an actor, does that isolated set help with the feelings that Kenny has? Because he feels all alone and like lonely, right? And it just seems like the set where you guys shoot is very isolated and very lonely too.
Yeah, like there's something about shooting our show that kind of almost feels like we're it's a TV show, but it almost feels like we're shooting like an indie film, in that like we work very intimately with like a very small crew, really strong crew, but like everyone's kind of a family. But that long drive getting out to town definitely feels a little bit isolating. It's kind of like, it almost feels like a wormhole. Like, you take the trip there, you take the drive there, and you're getting into character.
Yeah.
We didn't know this until like maybe the middle or the end of season 2, but it's like, apparently that little area, that little depot, small town that we shoot in, apparently it's kind of like known by the locals, like a bunch of spooky stuff has happened there in the past, and we didn't even realize it. And there was one night we were shooting, it was late in the night, and we were shooting season 2, I think, and somebody was mentioning that. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then we like look up in the sky, and there's like just like this like creepy string of lights like in the sky, like kind of floating by. And you have to understand, bro, our town is so isolated that there's like very little pollution, so you can see the stars. It's very beautiful. But then we just like see this string of lights, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, what are we? And then that's when all of it's like, this place is actually like kind of like a creep, like spooky. Like, we did Vegas. We're like, what? And then come to realize that we Googled it afterwards. It was just Elon's Starlink. And we're like, oh, okay.
Oh, man. Okay. How do you go in there?
Yeah. I was like, what the hell is that? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as you get the scripts though for season 3, like, are you reading the scripts as an actor to prepare for your scenes, to start memorizing your lines, or are you reading them like as a fan almost and just want to see what happens next and what the reveals are and where the mystery is going?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely it's always gonna be like, but it's both parts, right? It's like I liked when we get the scripts. Like typically, some actors and certainly me on different projects before, it's like you get a script for a thing and you like immediately like control F, like type in your character's name and like look at all the scenes that you're in and all the things that you
Hmm.
have just to see what you're gonna be doing coming up. But
Highlight the
um
sides.
yeah, exactly. But like from like because I am such a fan of the show, it feels like to me when we get the scripts, like I'm watching the episodes. So like I'll like turn my phone on do not disturb, I'll like turn everything off. I was like, nobody talk to me right now. I
Yeah.
like whip open the script and I read it from top to bottom because I want to feel the suspense of like when I'm watching the episode, like what's happening. And yeah, so it definitely feels kind of like I'm lucky to work on something that I'm such a fan of because it is exciting. We are just as eager as the fans like to read the new episodes because we want to know what's going on. Like, are we getting answers, clues, hints, and
Hmm.
like yeah. So that's kind of the best part is like reading it and knowing what's happening next.
And as you guys are shooting it, are you guys like getting together over lunch and like speculating and sharing your own theories? And like, what do you
Yeah,
think
all
this
the time.
means? And like,
Yeah,
who do
all
you
the
think
time.
called? And like, whatever, like, you know?
Yeah. Especially in like the first season when it was all so fresh and we're like everyone had their own theories, like that was like yeah, the majority of like dinner and like lunch conversations, like what I think is this and that. I think now like as we've finished like season 3, like we're all such like almost like vets on this show where it's like not that we've given up on the mystery as a cast, but we're kind of like we're so zen. We're like it'll reveal itself to us when the time, right? Yeah, because
Yeah.
we are definitely getting these little hints and these answers where we're kind of like, okay, I'm starting to have some idea where it's going,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's really all I could say.
Yeah, I mean, because everyone, as you said, when you watch the show, like everyone's had their own experiences, right? So Boyd, who we already mentioned, he's had his own little. He went underground, right?
Mhm.
Tabitha went into like either this alternative universe or she went back home or whatever it is. Like, you know what I
Right,
mean? As
right.
season 3 opens, so like everyone's kind of had their own experiences. But circling back to Kenny, Kenny's arc
Mhm.
is crazy because like he was the only one trapped. He had his own family, which a couple other people do, but he also had his own
Mhm.
culture. Like he was able to talk Cantonese with his mom. It's Cantonese, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So to have your own family and your own culture within that Fromville, that separates him from a lot of other people and a lot of other experiences. You know what I mean? Like he has that extra, like I guess, handhold on like the reality that he used to be in.
Right. That's such a good point. Yeah, because there's a level of yeah, for sure, like a level of comfort and a level of like connection to your reality when your family's also there, right? Like
Hmm.
obviously for work I travel a lot, but I'm actually somebody that's really prone to homesickness, like especially like the first couple days when I get adjusted, like acclimated to a place. You miss home, you miss your family, and
Mom's cooking.
yeah, of course mom's cooking, and there's always like I think as human beings that's just a natural part of us, like all of us, no matter how much you travel. But it's always going to be nice to have something that grounds you into like your home life, like your real life. And
Hmm.
like it might be something as small as like I'll throw on The Office on Netflix because that's what I watch on at home. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And and I think for Kenny, it's like having his parents. At least it feels like okay, well, we're here together. And of course he doesn't have that anymore.
Yes. So
Yeah.
picking up on that thread, then, like, what are some of the emotional challenges you as an actor face in portraying Kenny's emotional journey? Like you already touched upon it, right? Like he has the comforts of home, and now those comforts are gone. Like, dude's been
Yeah.
through a lot.
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest challenges is like obviously like how do you how do you create a performance and how do you create an honest performance out of the material when it's like it's just been like nonstop lost, right? Without trying to make you feel like all one thing, right? Like with this one big grieving blob of like sadness and the challenge has been also like between seasons because we don't really know really anything
Mhm.
and we don't know anything going into the next seasons. you know I've started developing like this kind of like routine between seasons at this point now where like since season 1 when everything was done you kind of speculate okay what direction are they going to go going into season 2? What direction are they going to go going into season 3? And so it's like you can kind of prepare for it, but then when you show up, the emotional life that you're giving to the character can be completely changed depending on what the writers have prepared for you. So that's been one of the big challenges, is like just like being very open to any experience that's going to be thrown your way through the mystery of the show, really, basically.
So expanding on that, then how do you see Kenny's evolution from season 1 to season 3? He seems to be more of a man now, right, compared to season 1, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think, season 1, when I was casted as the character, technically he was supposed to be like in his mid to like late 20s, which is accurate to how old I really am. But because of how young I look, I think especially season 1 Kenny, he kind of came off more in that like 23 range, maybe early 20s. But definitely kind of more of a coming of age character at that point, right? He's dealing with his father who has dementia and trying to help him through this, and helping his mom through basically her denial that her husband has dementia almost. And then immediately his dad dies, and dealing with that process, and then finding his feet in town and being a leader was, not too dissimilar to like how I felt joining the show, right? Like he's unsure, he has a bit of an imposter syndrome. He's like this young guy being thrusted into the world, and me being, first time series regular on this TV show that I'm really excited about. It felt kind of like that. And so, yeah, it's in terms of like Kenny's arc, it does feel like I've been very grateful to like grow with Kenny during this process. And I think now, with having lost his dad and his mom, he's kind of, it's almost like he always wanted to, maybe there's an idea that he always wanted to be a hero so that he could protect the people around him. And so he puts the cape on, and he's kind of like this little boy, like cosplaying as a hero. But now it's like he realized, like, yeah, I'm just going to take this off, and maybe he can actually be a hero now and help people and be a real leader.
Yeah, Boyd, Kenny's sidekick, which I guess is not the accurate, but like Boyd is, he's kind of like the face of the show and the face of the town. But does that make Kenny then the soul of the town in a sense, from what you're describing?
Yeah, and I've heard some people say that, which is like, that's very, that means a lot to me, and I think that would mean a lot to Kenny too, certainly, because I do think he's trying his best to keep the spirits of the people alive in the way that he can, and which is just like helping in little ways here and there, and in terms of like the face of the town and the heart of the town, and like being the sidekick, like, yeah, there's always kind of been this like Batman and Robin dynamic between Boyd and Kenny, and I think that like, going back to the arc thing, like it's almost like Kenny's becoming like if he's Robin, he's becoming Nightwing, like he's Dick Grayson, he's kind of growing into
great reference,
pretty sick. But that's what it, that kind of is what it feels like. He's like, he'll always be by Boyd's side despite some of their like differences or whatever, but yeah, he's trying to grow into his own thing.
Yeah, there's a kind of not quite father figure, but almost mentorship as well too, with the relationship that he has with Boyd. Is kind of like, I guess it feeds a little bit into the Asian culture too, right? Like the reverence for the elders and that kind of thing as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I would say that it is like a bit of a father figure, because Boyd was a bit like a surrogate father to him, especially when he was going through the stuff with his dad, and then the reverence for the elders thing is like, honestly, like it's something that I have to work through too, like just in my day-to-day, like in my career stuff, right? Because I think like, in lots of like immigrant cultures, we revere our elders, right? And like sometimes almost to a fault. Like as someone that appreciates the culture, I think that just makes sense to me. But it's like sometimes I realize that like when I'm working, say, with a director, or I'm working with a producer, that like there's mutual respect there, but I almost have to like dial down my reference and like treat each other as equals, because we are collaborating on a thing. And I think that's just like, I think it's just like an implicit cultural thing that sometimes I have to spot and check myself in.
It's sometimes too, this is a quick tangent, but it's sometimes too it kind of comes up because you're not, like, I'm Egyptian, so there's not a lot of Egyptian actors. We don't go into acting, right? And so when you go into a weirder profession like acting, right, where you're forced to collaborate and, like you said, connect with people and whatever. What are your ideas? How do you think Kenny should do this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you're asking me? Like, right? Like, there's a little bit of, like, depending on your culture and the minority status you have, that kind of kicks in, right? And
Totally.
so
Yeah.
you sometimes get a little bit more quiet or you don't share because it's like, I don't
Yeah.
know if I can contribute to this.
Yeah, I had a feeling you're Egyptian because it's so funny. I was literally talking to, one of my training partners, Abdo, literally about this exact kind of same topic. And it's like, yeah, there's like, again, I think it's a good thing. I think it's a beautiful
Mhm.
thing that is embedded into our culture, which is like the reverence for our elders and the respect for it, regardless of sometimes, we're totally going off on a tangent now, but like, regardless of whether it's always right, the opinion that's being passed down along,
Mhm.
there's an understanding and a willingness to listen because of this reverence rather. But it's like understanding how to navigate more of like a Western world or a Western culture
Mhm.
with these ideas.
Which circles back to Kenny because Kenny matters, right? Like the
Right.
town signaled him, like after his mom died in this horrible, horrible way. The town in the diner, Kenny's just sitting there and he's all grieving, whatever. The town mocks him and the creatures mock him by playing Cool in the Gang, right? Celebration, right? Like it's a little like poking the eye almost. You know what I mean? Like the guy's already lost his mom and his dad to this stupid town, and now they're gonna play Celebration, right? Like so, Kenny matters, and this is kind of what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. I think that. Yeah. I think it's just another one of those. I think it's just another way to test him because, like you said, Kenny matters, and it's almost like assuming that is what the town is doing, like basically like picking on him or like pouring salt on the wound.
Mhm.
It is like they know how much this matters to him. You know what I mean? Because obviously family is so big in the culture, but just so big individually to Kenny, that's all he has left, right?
Right. And they probably heard Kenny when he was all angry and saying like, "We can't play defense forever, Boyd." Right? So
Yeah.
they know like we're going to see this other side of Kenny now coming out. And so when you're
Right.
talking about like Kenny went from like Robin to Nightwing, is it almost like, to torture this analogy a little bit more, is he almost becoming like Red Hood now, or is he going to actually become Batman and like as part of the arc moving forward?
That'd be cool. That'd be cool. I'd love for him to go full Red Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But like without spoiling anything, I think that like Kenny like down to his bones is just like fundamentally very, very good.
Mhm.
He's a very good person. I've been saying in all my interviews that I think he's a better person, better man than I could ever really hope to be because through all this, he's still holding on to like his family values, the teachings of his mom, which is like, go be the person that the town needs, go support the town.
Mhm.
Maybe, hopefully, like season 4, we see a bit more Red Hood peek out. That'd be kind of cool.
That would be cool. We're gonna wrap up shortly, but just so what you're talking about with the family values, like Kenny left in the beginning of season 3, right, to go look for the missing mom so that the kids would have somebody, right, and like it ultimately left his mom alone, but that's his values coming through. You know what I mean? Like if we can preserve this one family, because this is one of the few families that are actually all together in Farmville or whatever this weird place is, and if he can help preserve that, Kenny's willing to go do that. But the cost was high for him.
Exactly. Yeah. And you'll see him kind of honor those values in some different ways coming up in the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's very well put. Like he's trying to preserve the family and like however he can help. I do think also like, and that's why like the situation with his mom, like I think there's a bit of shame revolving it, obviously, because I think there's a choice in my head deep down when I was preparing, which is like there's a moment in the decision for Kenny in going out to the forest with Jim that maybe there's a little bit of like sense of like, oh, this could be my chance to be a hero. This could be my chance to like to do something great,
This is his bat light, and he wanted to respond.
That's right. Yeah, this is the bat signal's calling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going. Boyd's been out there and he brought back talismans. Maybe I can go out there, bring back Tabitha, or maybe we could. Maybe the fans are always like, go out there and be more active and solve the mystery. It's okay. Maybe this is Kenny's chance to go out there and do something and help. But then, of course, at what cost? At the cost of his mother's life. And I think that. So from that experience, I think going forward, he's going to be a little bit more contemplative about like, okay, is this like, don't be a fucking hero. Like just support the people, help the people. You know what I mean? Until he's grieved through it. And then maybe he's ready to take another leap of faith.
Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, this was your breakout role, right? And so now you've been Kenny for 3 seasons. Was there any particular scenes or even moments that were especially memorable or impactful for you to film?
The short version of it is like one of my favorite scenes that I've ever shot was with Sean Majumder in season 1 when we're in Colony House and we're like drunk, and I'm like talking about my mom just because like just working with Sean is so great, and that was actually one of the scenes that I had auditioned with. But in terms of like the most memorable, I'd probably say a bunch of the scenes obviously from season 3 with the revolving Tian Chen dying and Kenny finding out. But the most memorable one is probably the tree chopping scene from season 1, because that was my first day of work ever on this show. And so I show up to show and I show up to the set and I put on my costume for the first time, and the way that we had planned for it. And then they're like, actually, yeah, untuck everything, take everything out, and we're going to cover you in blood. And they just start splattering me in blood. And and I'm drenched in blood. Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. It's your first day of work. You're about to meet Harold for the first time. You're about to meet Jack for the first time. You're about to meet John for the first time. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I have this massive monologue to deliver to like, an all-time great actor. Mm-hmm. So all of that was like really nerve-wracking. But at the end of the day, when we'd finish and I felt like I had done it, I was like, okay, cool. Like a massive, rock was lifted from my shoulder. And I was like, okay, I feel like I can do this. I can really genuinely do this. And I went home and I had a burger, and that was it.
And you feel much more comfortable now 3 seasons in with Kenny and who he is. Yeah. And like you kind of, I guess, got a handle on Kenny, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, on the previous topic of like growth, like character arc and stuff like that too. Like it's almost so easy to like fall into Kenny to some degree now, like to go into his character whenever we're back in Halifax, that it's like, I almost have to catch myself, because as I'm getting into character, I'm like, oh, but like this is season 4 now and he's grown since. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? That's how I felt like going into season 2. That's how I felt going into season 3. It's like, okay, we're getting back into Kenny, but it's like, don't make the mistake of getting into like season 1 Kenny. This is like he's made some strides now. Remember every step of the journey, and like, okay, this is the next.
Yeah, so don't be like timid Kenny again, right? Like
yeah, because it is like he's like, we obviously have a lot of similarities, but like the way Kenny walks around town and the way he conducts himself is very different from how I would be, in the town, and so it's like, okay, find where he is now at this stage of his life, at this stage of his Pokemon evolution or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not Charmander anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that'll be enough though if he was to like get Christy back? Or is that like...
I don't know. Yeah. You know what I mean? If he was a Charizard, he was like fully Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Because she put him in the friendship zone, right? Which is like exactly the town from Fromville. There's no escape the friendship zone, right? Like no matter, you just keep going in circles, you never escape from there.
Yeah, that is where I have a lot of similarities with Kenny, so that's good.
So you're channeling like real emotion is what you're saying.
Yeah, frequent visitor of the friend zone.
Okay, yeah. That's a slightly sad note, but we're gonna end it there.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Ricky, and I'm glad that more and more people are kind of discovering the show and like figuring theories out, and the obviously the writers and the showrunners, everybody's having a good time and like putting out red herrings and distracting people, and there's like these little tangents and nobody knows what to trust. These creatures who come out at night, those are always fun too. So it's a great show, so give everybody a high five, please.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Sammy.
Yo, that was Ricky, who plays Kenny on From, which you can see on MGM+. I'm Sammy, host of My Summer Lair. Well, actually, in America, you can see From on MGM+, and in Canada, Season 3 is on Paramount+. So either way, be sure to set the VCR. And speaking of setting the VCR, on my website, mysummerlair.com, every Monday at 9 a.m., a weekly Set the VCR post is posted. Posted? Yeah, I guess. Let's go with posted. It's your friendly neighborhood TV guide. If anything, I'm like your TV Sherpa, guiding you through... I don't know how This metaphor is terrible. It's not really a Sherpa thing because it's not like TV's that mountain or anything. That started off bold and strong, but it's gonna end weak. Okay, let's go back to TV Guide. Same TV Guide sounds so old school, but let's do it. But yeah, every week, every Monday at 9 a.m., set to VCR, documentaries and TV premieres and TV recommendations like From. From is fantastic. I hope you have a chance to check it out if this is your introduction via this episode with Ricky. When you're there on the site too, mysummerlair.com, sign up for My Pal Sammy, a weekly newsletter. At the beginning of every month, I issue a Set to VCR newsletter that highlights must-see TV for that month. That's also incredibly useful. You know what? I guess I am like a Sherpa in a weird sort of way. I guide you through the TV landscape. There we go. I pulled it out. It was still kind of weak. Anyways, we're going to move on. I don't need a focus group to know not to use Sherpa again. Set to VCR, My Pal Sammy is all happening at mysummerlair.com. Please subscribe, sign up. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you to you for listening to me in a Netflix world, or I guess in this case, because it's From. Thank you for listening to me in an MGM Plus world. From, yo.